So, today I want to talk about propaganda and social engineering and emotional manipulation. So, I want to observe that what we are witnessing with the transgender agenda is not the uprising of a marginalized class. Rather, it is the collusion of top down state and corporate controlled messaging that is coming to us from the top down. So you'll notice when you see this out in the world, out in the wild, that almost every major corporation backs this. Big tech backs this. Big banking backs this. Big pharma backs this movement. And it is also coming to us from the state. So a lot of the violence that we saw on the Trans Day of Visibility, that is state-sanctioned violence. A lot of the violence that women face is state-sanctioned. And I want to talk about what this social engineering / propaganda includes. It includes educational materials, sloganeering, publicity that tell the public how they are supposed to think about this issue. So us, the public, is meant to deny what we perceive, what we see, what we sense with our eyes and ears, and we are supposed to go along with this rhetoric, which uses the tools of false positivity, guilt, shame, empathy, and pseudo-academic tautological jargon that is meant to emotionally control the narrative of allowable thought. Those of us who break out of the area of allowable thought, we are met with silencing, bullying, and all kinds of violent harassment and sometimes physical threats and intimidation. So you can see what the allowable thought is once you step outside it. And this is the only, we're one of the only things right now that has this. Like I can say publicly, I don't believe in Judaism. I don't believe in Christianity. I don't believe in Marxism. Whatever else I want to say, I can pretty much say that in public, and there are no social repercussions. There's no state repercussions. There's no social media repercussions. But this is the sort of untouchable thing. And because it is so untouchable, we can see how much it is actually a control mechanism that is being forced on us. So I want to say that words like inclusion and validation are slyly positive. Okay, so these are manipulation tools. They are meant to arouse feelings of altruism, but these words are being used as a direct wedge to violate women's boundaries, to violate kids' ability to recognize sex and trust in their own senses of what they see in the world, trust their own bodies to tell them the truth of what they see. Inclusion as a principle is only valuable in appropriate circumstances. So it's only appropriate when it's a kindness, like at a birthday party or something. But when planning for sex-based safeguarding provisions for women's prisons, women's shelters, locker rooms, sports, bathrooms, the word inclusion is actually intrusion. It's intrusion. It's a boundary violation. And rather than being a kindness, it's an abuse to women and girls. So this emotionally charged language, these linguistic turnarounds and flips are a tactic that is consistently employed on behalf of this agenda. Words like bigot and transphobic are also used. These are also emotional manipulation tactics to shame and to vilify those that deny, those that refuse to deny, rather, those of us that refuse to deny the reality of sex. So truth tellers become wrong thinkers, and women who assert that they are human beings who are wholly unique from men and who demand respect for our bodies and our boundaries and who fight for the protection of the immutable characteristic of sex were also called TERFs, okay? Again, these words are meant to shame, vilify, shun, silence. Guilt by association is also employed. These are the same same tactics that are used in the Salem witch trials, in McCarthyism, and it shows you that you have to have the proper beliefs, okay? You have to renounce the witch, renounce the red, renounce the turf, okay? The ferocity with which the opposition is suppressed is emotionally charged, okay? This is an emotionally charged agenda. So suicide claims, these claims that they bring up of suicide, these are also used to arouse guilt. This is an empathy trap. This goes to the creation of the trans child to protect children. Okay, we're trying to protect children from unnecessary medicalization. The agenda is trying to use children. They're using children to sell this agenda. No one was getting on board with this when it was all about adult men. When we called it transsexualism, insurance companies were not about to pay for fetish surgeries for adult men, so they had to create the quote unquote trans child. This is a creation. This is, again, not something that rose from something organic. It is top down. It is top down engineering. So we know that if a husband, for example, if a client comes to a therapist and says, I'm going to kill myself if my wife leaves me, well, we know that's a narcissistic tactic. And the same is true here. That's a narcissism tactic. But suicide threats are being consistently used to garner sympathy for this quote unquote trans child. And the trans child, as I said, it's a maneuver to work on the empathy of those who reject and are disgusted by the paraphilias of adult men. So lastly, among the tactics of this emotional manipulation, words like gender identity, gender dysphoria, these are all used to make those who understand very basic biology lessons of high school feel stupid and confused and behind the times. Again, it's emotional manipulation. Okay, this is social engineering. These quote unquote scientific sounding terms are being used to subvert our basic understandings of reality, our sense perceptions, what we see, what we hear, what we sense. Millions of years of evolutionary honed instincts are instilled in every animal, including humans, and we're now being encouraged to deny these senses in the face of meaningless tautological jargon. I want to talk about Jennifer Bilek and her work at the 11th Hour blog. She observes that the word transgender is not fit for communication. She says it's not fit for communication. It does not define anything clearly, but rather obscures the industry manifested in its name. It's an umbrella term with no borders, under which sit too many conflicting ideas, allowing its definitional goalposts to move whenever anyone criticizes the ideology and the markets formed around it. Instituting gender ideology as a legal concept deconstructs what it means to be a human, since we are biologically and sexually dimorphic species. What is happening is that the corporate state is deconstructing sex as a step towards alienating us from our humanity. Endless discussions about quote unquote gender identity obscure this fact. So that's Jennifer Bilek's quote. All of these tactics, guilt, shame, empathy, false positivity, and the jargon of pseudoscientific expertise are emotional manipulation tactics used to control the discourse and manage dissent. These external judgments are meant to work on our egos, where the choice before us is to trust our instincts. It's either to trust our instincts and be labeled an evil turf, or to be a good, progressive-minded person. We're being pressured to outsource our own internal authority, the authority of our bodies, our emotional integrity, and our right to name reality. Animals are not troubled by these kind of mental judgments when it comes to responding to their senses. Okay, they stay with their senses, and that is what we need to do. We need to stay in our instincts, in our embodiment, and trust the authority of our own senses and reject, and practice non-compliance when it comes to this ideology. Thank you.